Hey, it's me jumping in here at the beginning of the video. I thought I'd film this separately because I keep forgetting to do it. My book giveaway is going strong. I gave away a copy of Lolita in my last video, 2 videos before that, I can't remember. But I gave away a copy of Lolita. A bunch of people reached out and said they would like a copy of that, and I was able to send it out along with a couple of other books, which was great. So I want to do that. I want to keep doing that. For this video, I'll be giving away this copy of In Cold Blood. It's a Modern Library hardcover copy. Nice little picture of Truman Capote there on the back. I did rather cringely underline some of the names in the book when I read it the first time. So you will see a little bit of underlining in it, but other than that, it is in perfect condition, no dog ears or anything like that. So if you want a copy of In Cold Blood, just let me know. I can be reached by email. And you got to live in the lower 48, unfortunately. But you're welcome to reach out anyway if you don't live in the lower 48. I just won't be able to send you this book. But yeah, if you live in the continental United States and you want the book and you email me with your address and you're the first to do so, then I'll send it to you. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. Bye. Okay, it's May 1st, and that means it's a new month. And that means it's a new reading month, and that means I wanted to make a video about my TBR for this month, which is an exciting TBR, I think. This is a different sort of TBR than I usually do. Usually I just go based on vibes. Usually I just vibe it out. What do I want to read? What do I have on my bookshelves? What did I buy recently? But this month I'm doing a theme. I'm doing a theme for multiple reasons. So I'll get into that. But I selected all of these books based on what I had on my shelves. So this is sort of a scrappy list, but I'm really proud of it. It's all books based on the Middle Ages or based around the Middle Ages. So this is a Middle Ages TBR, which I'm really excited about. If you followed me on this channel for a while, you know that I have a real soft spot for the Reformation. So really anything sort of like Europe post the Middle Ages is like what I'm most comfortable reading and what I've read the most about. But I have not looked back to the Middle Ages too often. And so I wanted to do that for this month. And what resulted was that I built myself, frankly, if I could be frank, a pretty, I think, aesthetically pleasing TBR. This list of books was, like I said, salvaged. These were just books that I had on my shelf. I didn't go out and buy any of these books for the expressed intention of reading a series of books on the Middle Ages for this month. These were books that I had gotten over the last couple of months and could wait to read no longer. So I threw them all together, and when I realized that I was starting to come up with a Middle Ages theme, I just thought, you know what, let's go for it and make it an entirely Middle Ages reading month. I'm also participating in Historathon 2025 this year, which is a event here on BookTube that encourages you to read books related to history, nonfiction and history. And the year is divided into 4 quarters, each quarter covering a specific period of time. The second quarter that we're in right now is from readings from 500 to 1500 AD. So that's about the Middle Ages. So in participation of that, I'm also, going to be reading a lot of books on the Middle Ages. So anyway, I'll stop rambling. But yes, keep in mind, these are books that I had on my bookshelf. These are books that I had already lined up. If I were to think in my head from, tabula rasa, just like blank slate, what would I put on a list of books that I would read about the Middle Ages? I might not go for these books right away, but these are the ones that I had, and all of these books I'm excited to read in one way or another. That's why I have them, right? I'm not amassing books here because I'm not interested in reading them. These are all books that I want to read. So with that out of the way, what I really enjoy about this TBR is that it's based off of 3 biographies. So we'll start with a biography of a person. Then I've got a biography for somebody who falls into the category of being like the man of the Middle Ages. And then I have a biography for somebody at the end of the Middle Ages, somebody who kind of closes out the Middle Ages, or at least is typical for the late Middle Ages. So the biography to get us started is Justinian. This is a new biography. It came out, honestly, I think it came out at the end of 2023. But I picked this up right at the end of 2024, and I have not read it yet. This is by Peter Saris. It's put out by Basic Books. I'm really excited to read this, and of course, if I'm reading this biography of Justinian, you know I'm not going to be able to help myself. I will probably have to read The Secret History again by Procopius, because that might be the most amazing thing ever written. And it makes me even more excited to read this book, because I don't know how much of what's in there about Justinian is true. I'm assuming a lot of it is completely exaggerated, but I'm interested to see what Peter Saris's take on it is. Could Justinian, for example, write his own name? We'll see. I don't know, but I'm super excited to read this, and you might be wondering why this would be a good place to start. I think it's a great place to start because the Byzantine Empire, which Justinian was the emperor of, the Byzantine Empire is firmly, I think, in the beginning of the Middle Ages. We are not, by the time we get to the Byzantine Empire, we are not talking about antiquity anymore. We're not talking about ancient Greece or ancient Rome. We are talking about a unique, special thing that is much more Middle Ages or medieval than it is ancient Greek, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. But this is a world dominated by hagiography, where the people loved reading hagiographies. That's a feature of the Middle Ages. That piety, that lay piety, dominated the Byzantine Empire, and it would also dominate medieval Europe as well. So there's a lot of reasons, at least in my head, to associate the Byzantine Empire with the Middle Ages, and I believe it's even mentioned here on the dust jacket. Yes. From his dramatic overhaul of Roman law to his lavish building projects to his fierce persecution of dissenters from Orthodox Christianity, Justinian's vigorous statecraft, and his energetic efforts at self-glorification not only set the course of Byzantium, but also laid the foundation for the world of the Middle Ages. So, our first biography will be of Justinian. I think that's a really good pick. And then after that, we've got Marion Turner's relatively new biography of Chaucer as well. I actually made a fair bit of progress in reading this already. Loving it. Great. And it's relevant not only because Chaucer is a person who lived in the Middle Ages, but he is often seen, or at least written about, as a person who typifies the Middle Ages in a certain sense. We know details about his life, where he was at certain times, who he was living with at certain times, what he was doing in certain people's courts at certain times. And so because of that, you can construct a life not only of Chaucer, but of what somebody's life might have looked like, generally speaking, in the Middle Ages. And so he's often seen and written about as a window into the life of people who lived in the Middle Ages. It's fascinating. This is turning out to be a fantastic biography. I love this. I love this design. This is from Princeton University Press, because of course it is. They just don't miss. And this is, and she even puts it, oh yeah, I forgot, the subtitle here is A European Life. I mean, that's a big portion of Chaucer's life, is the fact that he is this sort of cosmopolitan medieval figure. And because of that, again, he serves not only as a really interesting person in terms of his own individual biography, but as a window into a whole world, a window into a world of the European Middle Ages. So this definitely earns its keep on this TBR as well. And then the final biography, the one I'm the most nervous about in terms of its quality. I don't know whether or not I'm going to like this or not, but it's Dan Jones's new biography of Henry V. And Henry V, the subtitle here is The Astonishing Triumph of England's Greatest Warrior King. Look, I'm not a snob. If a biography is written for a popular audience, no problem. I love that. I love that just as much as anybody else. I'm not an expert in anything. I just hope it's not, I hope it just doesn't stoop too low and it isn't too, I don't know, inventive for the sake of being entertaining. I hope that there's a lot of information in here that's readable and usable and teaches me a lot, because I don't know much about Henry V. I have no problem admitting that. I want to learn more about Henry V. So if this biography does that, then it's great. And Henry V did live in the Middle Ages, but the late Middle Ages. And after Henry V, we're a hop, skip, and a jump away from the Reformation and everything that goes on with Henry VIII's court and everything like that. So this is a person to kind of close out the Middle Ages in my reading of it. So I'm really, really excited about this. This is the three biographies that is going to make up the bulk of the sort of spine of this TBR. Then we've got a couple of pieces of, what do we say? Fiction? Well, I've got Boethius's Constellation of Philosophy on here. This is not a piece of fiction. This is a piece of philosophy, but it's one of the more famous pieces of philosophy to come to us from the Middle Ages, and I have it in this nice Penguin Classic, so I'm excited to read that. I also have Walter Scott's Ivanhoe, not because Walter Scott is, of course, a Middle Ages figure, but because the book itself is a piece of fiction set in the Middle Ages, and so I thought that was very appropriate. And this was actually on my last month's TBR. Things got shifted around, and I thought, well, I'll just put it on next month's TBR, since it is related to the Middle Ages in the sense that it is a historical novel set in the Middle Ages. So anyway, that was my idea of putting it on this month's TBR. I'm excited to get to this. It was a shame I couldn't get to it last month, but I can get to it now, so I'm happy about that. And then we've got The Divine Comedy by, of course, Dante. This copy that I'm holding up here is the Clive James translation. It is deceptively big. It's got all three books in it. It's got Hell, Purgatory, and Heaven, all three of them, which I'm happy about, and I'm planning to read all three of them. You might be surprised at this pick. From what I can tell, this translation is much maligned, or at least it's not a lot of people's go-to translation. There's a lot of reasons for that. It's very quirky. It's very strange. Clive James decides to sort of reimagine the poem in English rhyming quatrains, which is a unique choice for him. He also... the biggest thing that this translation does, the boldest statement that he makes in the introduction, is that there is no critical apparatus attached to this whatsoever. There are no endnotes. There are no footnotes. He is letting the poem just speak for itself. And frankly, that's a really strange choice, because for decades and decades and decades now, every translation, every major English translation of the Inferno or the Divine Comedy just in general has featured a large and robust critical apparatus of some variety, because Dante is writing at a specific time, in a specific place, to a specific time and a specific place, referencing specific people who, of course, you don't know about, referencing political situations that you're probably unfamiliar with, and so these notes have often served as a way of, getting a 21st century reader up to speed on, what Dante is referring to when he makes the references that he makes throughout the Divine Comedy. And Clive James makes the statement in the beginning that you don't need any of that, that the poem actually describes everything that you need to know within the poem itself, that if you just pay attention and read closely, you'll be able to follow along. Now, look, I'm not sure if that is necessarily the right philosophy or the one that I agree with the most, but I picked this out because I like to compare translations of anything, whether it's the Iliad, whether it's the Brothers Karamazov, whether it's any sort of piece of translated literature, I like to take my favorite moment from whatever is the first translation that I read and then compare it across different other translations. And for me, when it comes to the Divine Comedy, my favorite moment, the one that really, really, really has always stuck out to me is when, right at the beginning, when Dante meets Virgil for the first time. And I just want to read how Clive James renders that moment. He goes, "Are you Virgil? Are you the spring, the well, the fountain, and the river in full flow of eloquence that sings like a seashell, remembering the sea and the rainbow? Of all who fashion verse, the leading light, the man of honor, what am I to say? Through learning you by heart, I learned to write. My love for your book turned my night to day. You are my master author. Only you could teach me the sweet style they call mine." And I don't know about you, but I think that's awesome. I've always loved that. I think that's fantastic. It's always moved me. And I will read the Longfellow translation and I'll read other more contemporary translations and be like, that moment, I think it was better. I liked it more in Clive James. So, long-winded way of saying, I'm going to read this all the way through, and I'm excited about it. Whether it is the smart choice or not, it's the one that I'm going to go with because it's the one I have personally the most enthusiasm for. So, that's it for that. And then we've got 3 more books on the TBR. We have Inventing the Middle Ages by Norman F. Cantor. I forgot to take the used book sticker off of this. All of these basically came from my local used bookstore. This one I forgot to take the sticker off of. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Inventing the Middle Ages, Norman F. Cantor. Cantor is a very well-established, very well-respected, very well-read, and widely published author on the Middle Ages. He's a pretty eminent medievalist, and this is a piece of sort of meta-history. He's not just talking about the Middle Ages, he's talking about the lives of the people who have written prominently about the Middle Ages, the lives and the works of those people, and then how the way that they present the Middle Ages has sort of trickled down into popular conceptions and readings and ideas of the Middle Ages. I think a piece of meta history like this is fascinating. It's pretty hit or miss sometimes for me, though. It can be very dry. It can be overly academic, I feel like. It can be a little bit self-indulgent. I don't think this is going to be the case with this. I think it's going to be a great book to accompany the other books on the Middle Ages that I have here, as sort of a check on some of those popular misconceptions maybe, or those popularly recapitulated notions about the Middle Ages, and I think also it'll help bolster any of the depictions of the Middle Ages that I have here that are particularly good and particularly accurate. I think it'll add more to that and make it even more impressive. But anyway, this is a thing I was excited to find, and I'm very glad to be able to add it to this month's TBR. Then we're gonna hop out of the European world and into the world of Asia for the Lost Enlightenment. I hauled this book on this channel. This is also put out by Princeton University Press. A couple people jumped down in the comments of that haul and said they were really interested in this book, and I'm glad because I'm super interested in this book as well. I'm actually just going to read the back of this, and hopefully that'll pique your interest. To me, this is right up my alley, and it's a book that relates to a lot of personal questions that I've had when I've investigated or read anything about particularly the Enlightenment, the European Enlightenment. References to Asia are not infrequent, and it's always brought up a series of question marks in my head about the history that they're alluding to. So this book will hopefully address those questions. But the back of the book says, in this sweeping and richly illustrated history, S. Frederick Starr tells the fascinating but largely unknown story of Central Asia's medieval enlightenment through the eventful lives and astonishing accomplishments of its greatest minds, remarkable figures who built a bridge to the modern world. Between the years 800 and 1200, Central Asia led the world in trade and economic development, the size and sophistication of its cities, the refinement of its arts, and above all, in the advancement of knowledge in many fields. Lost Enlightenment chronicles this forgotten age of achievement, seeks to explain its rise, and explores the competing theories about the causes of its eventual demise. Informed by the latest scholarship, yet written in a lively and accessible style, this is a book that will surprise general readers and specialists alike. I don't know. That sounds really interesting to me, and this is a book. It's not exactly short. It comes in at about 600 pages, but it's definitely a piece of history that I'm willing to give that effort to because it looks really interesting. So anyway, happy to add this to the TBR, and I'm glad that we'll have at least one piece of books on the Middle Ages that is not based in Europe. And then finally, the book that I'm really probably looking forward to the most. This just came out last month, I believe, or 2 months ago at this point. Summer of Fire and Blood by Lyndall Roper. This is also put out by Basic Books. This is about the German Peasants' War, which took place in 1523, 1524. And that puts us firmly into the Reformation. Martin Luther played an important role in that, or at least a very vocal role in that peasants' revolt. However, I believe it has its place on a TBR about the Middle Ages because it typifies, to me, a moment in which the world is changing. The world is becoming, Europe is becoming more of a cosmopolitan thing where it's expanding, it's coming into its own. There's a lot of developments in technology, the invention of the printing press. Europe is changing, it's shifting. And yet, the sort of yoke of medieval servitude, particularly in Germany, is hanging around the peasant's neck. And so this new world that these German peasants are finding themselves in, and the old world that they find themselves still yoked to, are now in conflict with each other in an irreconcilable way. And so that is going to erupt into a violent sort of chaotic war that is going to have a very bloody and violent end. But I think that it's a good way to kind of end a TBR about the Middle Ages, which is to reflect on where we're going to end up, or where Europe is heading at the end of the Middle Ages. It's heading into a pretty bad time. It's heading into a world that is going to get racked by the 30 Years' War. We're going to tumble into a lot of very difficult years for Europe until they emerge in the Enlightenment, and things kind of get a little bit better, but or at least it looks up for certain people. But that sort of interface, or that sort of interplay between the older medieval world and the newer developing world in the Reformation and going forward is exactly where exactly I wanted to posit myself at the end of a TBR about the Middle Ages. Okay, I've gone on for long enough. That's the stack. That's the pile for this month. I will hopefully be in a little bit better of a position, a little bit more equipped to handle this TBR. I think I can do it. I'm not sure if I will have to push some of these things off to next month, but I think if I stay on top of the ball, I'll be able to really be able to dial in and read all of these. So anyway, I'll stop yapping. That's my TBR, and if you want to participate with reading some books on the Middle Ages of your own, email me, let me know. I'd love to be able to spread it around and get some more people to read pieces of history with me about the Middle Ages. That'd be a lot of fun. So that's it for me today. Thank you both.